Hello, hello. I thought today we would talk about customs from Spek. If you're interested, then stay tuned. So I thought that today I would have a bit of a chit chat about having custom planners made by Spek. And the biggest reason why I wanted to do this is because I get so many DMs from people on Instagram about what I did with a particular custom, how they go about doing it, so on and so forth. And so I thought that I would come on here and just do kind of a little bit of an informational video to help kind of guide you guys through some of the custom processes. Now, bear in mind, even though I have had probably 10 customs done by Spek at this point, I am by no means an expert. I'm still kind of learning through the process with certain things myself, and with today's market, things are ever changing. So it might be true right now, but in 2 months it might change a little bit, and I really just wanted to have that as a caveat so that if you see this video later and things have changed, I don't get a bunch of ugly DMs. So, okay. Let's just get into some of the basics. So these are some of the customs that I have had done. All of these here are B6s with the exception of one. And so let's get into that. My very first, I'm pretty sure this was my absolute very first B6 that I ever had made. You can see videos like unboxings and the whole 9 yards of this one. This is before Spek came out with their standard B6 offering as a custom. And so back then, when you got a B6 custom, you had to essentially choose a ringed planner, whether it be the standard 25mm or the standard 30mm, and have them not put rings in it, and it had to be heightened slightly in order to accommodate for the B6. So as you can see, this particular one, it was my very first. This was a standard in a 25mm, and it is currently housing, what is in here? It looks like a Wonderland 222 notebook. You can see I have some discoloration there because, again, I've had this girl for a long time and she's been used hard. So she's been sun-kissed in more ways than one. But anywho, so this one will be a little bit smaller than the normal. So let's go to what the normal B6 looks like without a clasp, because that is something that I did. I did not get the clasp on this particular one because I use this for sermon notes. Oops, it's upside down. I use this for sermon notes at church. And as you can see, I have lots and lots of notes. And so I didn't want the clasp because I felt like when this book was sitting on my lap, the clasp was always trying to go back. And when I have it open on my lap, say like this, and I'm trying to write, that clasp is always in my way. And when I have my Bible on my lap and this on my Bible and I'm trying to write, this drove me batty. So I decided to go ahead and get one without the clasp, and it's essentially just like a folio style, and it works great and the color is gorgeous. But let's look at a size comparison. So essentially this, in her standard offering, because I didn't widen or heighten this is the standard B6 size that you can purchase in a custom right now. It is exactly the same as the old way of doing it with the 25mm ringless standard. So it is a pretty tight fit. So if you guys are stuffers, meaning you put lots of stickers, lots of ephemera and such in your books, this standard B6 offering is going to be too small for you. And I really want to make sure that is really talked about, because I see a lot of people, they get really excited about their customs, and then their customs come and they're, you know, and you wait like 3 months for your custom to show up, and sometimes more. And then you're like depressed because it's not like 100% what you wanted. So I wanted to make sure that I pointed that out, because I do really feel like Spek should be increasing the standard B6 size just ever so slightly. And mostly the reason why I feel that way is because, so since this one here is the same size as what they offer right now, you can see that you really, so the Wonderland is a smaller planner. So if I were to put a larger, and let's just do it so that you guys can see, if I was to put a thicker B6 that's a bit more stology thickness, so this one here is pretty close to what a stology would be brand new. So you can see that the Wonderland is definitely smaller, it's shorter, it's not as wide, it's not as thick. So let's go ahead and put this other B6 in here so that you can see what I'm talking about. So, and really we're mostly talking about, we're going to talk about regular customs, but we are going to talk about the B6 offering quite a bit, because B6 is what I use and it's really what I know the most. Okay, so this is more of the standard B6 size, and now let's look at it in the book. So you can see with 2 pen loops, and these pen loops are severely stretched because this planner is old and these pen loops have been used a ton. You can see that that book comes right to the pen loop. Now in a brand new planner, this is gonna not work so great, because these are not going to be stretched and they're going to be tight, and the book is going to hit them and it's going to drive you nuts. You're not going to be able to use side tabs for anything at all. And I'll flip it this way. So this is really why I feel like personally that the standard B6 offering that Spek has really should be widened a little bit more in her standard offering, because I think that her standard offering is just too tight, too tight. So there you can see. But again, some of y'all actually enjoy a very tight planner, and if that is the case, then okay, this might work great for you. My one suggestion would be to forego the second pen loop, because you can get the first one to stretch out a little bit more, and then you will have at least this much space for side tabs until you know, get to this part of the book where you'll be hitting into the pen loop. But otherwise you will be able to use some with that. So I would say if you're doing the standard offering and not widening it, then don't get the second pen loop like I did here, and you should be okay for a little while if you like the tight book look. But see how tight that is? Okay, so that is the first thing that I wanted to talk about. The next thing that I want to talk about is corners. Okay, So because this is my oldest one, you can really see the corners well, and there you go. So they're kind of bunched and they are sewed, and you can really look at, and this has been well loved and well used, the corners do get shiny, but that's pretty much it. And these might be a little dirty right now. I generally have to clean like the bottoms and the corners of my planner like once a month, and I haven't done it recently, especially with this one. So the rounded corners, and that's what these are, do hold up really, really well. Okay, now let's actually look at the one I'm using the most frequently for the square corners. So square corners, they're gorgeous. I mean, let's admit it. I really prefer a squared corner look-wise, but I prefer a rounded corner wear-wise. So it's kind of like you need to decide what's going to be better for you. If this is going to be an everyday carry and you're going to throw it in and out of bags non-stop, I personally would go with the rounded corners if you can live without having squared corners, because they're going to wear better and hold up better. Let's look at the actual square corners themselves. So this is what happens with a lot of use on the square corners. So what they do is they fold the leather over and then they come around and they sew it. But as you can see, that leather over time with use, if I can get it to zoom, lifts. So you can see it kind of lifting right there. And it gets this like grungy look. Even though it's not, that's mostly because the leather is lifting in that spot. But it does get this sort of grungy look, which this is no fault to Spek at all. This is just having the preference of having a squared corner. That leather is gonna lift in one part, almost always, and it's gonna get that like dark, dirty, grungy kind of look. And I don't care how good you are, and I'm just showing you kind of all the corners. I don't care how good you are at storing it, at taking care of your planners, it's not gonna matter, because you're gonna end up getting some of that on pretty much everything. Now I will say some leathers will show this more than others, and I can prove that by showing you a couple of my other squared corner ones. This one doesn't get used much, so you can see that the leather really hasn't lifted barely at all on this one, and it is a darker color, so even if it would, you probably wouldn't see it as much. So the darker colors are probably not going to show as much of that lifting. And then some of the coated leathers, so this is a Canterbury Bells, some of the coated leathers are not going to show it as much either, because they're like, this particular one is coated, and this one, they were able to get it to lie a lot more flat. And so some of the leathers you won't see it as much either. This one, I really honestly, I don't use this planner a ton. It's kind of just like my household overflow planner, and so you don't really see it as much in this one either. But I really want to point that out, because a lot of people ask, should I go square corners? Should I go rounded corners? What should I do? Honestly, it's up to you. It's really based on the color that you're choosing, and it's based on the leather that you're choosing and how much you're going to use this planner. If it's an everyday carry, it's going to go in and out of bags nonstop, and you're going to choose a light color. My suggestion would be to go with a rounded corner. But again, as you can see, most of my planners are squared corners because I just like that aesthetic look a little bit better. Now, I didn't do the squared corners with this one because this one is going to be going in and out a lot and does, and it is on the lighter side of colors, and I have white contrast stitching. So I went with the rounded corners on this one because I really felt like if I did square, it wasn't going to work as well. And honestly, I just like the look of the rounded corners on this particular one without having a clasp, but that's just me. Okay, so speaking of clasps, let's talk about that. So with the B6, I can tell you that the standard clasp is definitely a lot thinner than what you see here. So this is a widened clasp for the B6. This is the A5 clasp. And so it's definitely wider this way versus, you know, it probably would generally only be about this high with the standard offering. I personally like a chunky clasp. So the bigger the clasp for me, the better. I really actually am loving A4 clasps, and with my next custom, whenever that will be, who knows, I will probably go with an A4 clasp. I have had A4 clasps before, but currently all of the ones that I have here to show you today only have A5s because I've sold all the other ones. So the standard clasp that comes will be smaller than this one, like width-wise here. They always will accommodate the length. So if you widen your planner, then they will accommodate the width with the clasp to the widened planner. So you don't always need to pay the extra to widen the clasp, or not widen, but lengthen the clasp because you've lengthened your planner. So just kind of keep that in mind. But if you're someone that really wants a, like, you know, you're gonna super chunk up your planner, then I would say go ahead and lengthen it, but don't do it by much, because that's one of the biggest mistakes that people make, is they lengthen their clasp way too much, and then they have this like clasp that sticks out like this when they close their planner, and it looks hideous, and then they regret doing it. So I would say that really when it comes to lengthening a clasp, make sure that, you know, minimal is always best. Like go, you know, 5 millimeters or something like that, where it's not going to be so obtuse that your clasp is gonna stick out like crazy. Obviously, if you like massively stuff your book and it gets like this thick, then sure, you're gonna have to lengthen it. But there's not very many of us that do that, mostly because your book is so abnormally huge by the time you get to the end of the year, and it's almost impossible to use. But so that is the next custom. So these two particular customs that I have here in my hands are ones that I had widened. So I did not heighten these because I am not using a cover on cover, because I'm sliding my books right into the front and back covers. But if you are somebody that doesn't do that, and you say you just keep your book, let me grab this stuff out, you just keep your book like this, say you keep your book like this, and you want to, you know, put stuff on this front cover and all that, so you want to have a cover on cover, then you will need to heighten the standard B6 offering some, because as you can see, let's get to the back here, there's not a lot of space there. So, and it's that way on purpose, because you don't want your book like flopping around while it's in there. So if you want to cover on cover, you're going to need to heighten the book some in order to accommodate for that. And you really don't need to do much because, again, there is a little bit of playroom, and there are some particular cover on covers that I can get in here and have, but what I'll show you, this is what happens. See the leather down here? When you have a cover on cover and it's not, your planner cover is not heightened, it will push the leather down. If you can see that, the book's shifted, hang on. It will push the leather down some like this, and then you're gonna have that kind of issue going on there. So I don't use the cover on covers anymore, and that's just one more expense as far as, you know, especially if you're going to sell these planners. Over customizing it, you're not going to get that money back when you sell your planner. And so that is definitely something to think about when you are doing a custom as well. And so let's talk about that. Let's talk about value for money back. So with every custom, you're generally, from Spek, you're generally going to lose some money when you try and sell them, because your customs that you really want and enjoy are not necessarily a custom that someone else needs. And so to justify the cost for you to heighten, widen, do this, do that, all of those things cost a lot of money, but those don't always bring value to someone else. And so I am just putting that out there, that the more you customize these, the more expensive they get, the less you're going to get back on resale. So always keep that in mind. So that's why a lot of things like this particular one, I did the square corners and I did widen it. I did do the clasp. I did do the big back pocket, and I did do all of these pockets. And so this one would have been more expensive than, say, this one, because this is the standard offering pockets that come with this particular one. And so I didn't have to pay to customize any of that. I did get a big back pocket, and I did do an A5 clasp. And with this one, I did an extra bookmark. All of those are upcharges. So anything that's not in the standard offering on the website will have an upcharge, and all of those upcharges add up. So that's why they call it an upcharge. So just kind of keep that in mind, that all of those things will increase the price of your planner, but not necessarily increase the value. What are the few things that I would say do slightly increase the value, or at least the resaleability of your planner? One of the things, in my opinion, that does that is the back pocket. So many people looking for planners are looking for the planners with the back pocket to have that extra storage. And I really feel like I get a back pocket in every single one of my covers, because that is the biggest question I'm always asked when I'm reselling a planner. Does it have a back pocket, big back pocket? So I would definitely say, if you're thinking about that one custom, and it is probably one of the most expensive parts as far as a custom goes for these planners, I would do a big back pocket, because I do believe that those resell better. Just saying. Obviously, you do whatever you want to do, but that's just my opinion. So these two particular planners, I had widened, I had squared corners, I had A5 clasps, and both of them have this like Nomad Steve layout pocket on the left side, and then just the standard pocket offering with the standard pen loop offering on the right side. I did do big back pockets on all of them. These two particular planners are actually planners that are made to the exact specs of the Giglio Firenze B6 Appuntos. I really love that size, and I way prefer it over Vanderspek's standard B6 offering for their codexes. So I always go with this now because I can super chunk up my planners. I have space for side tabs, as you can see. Actually, let me take this pen out of the pen loop and you can see it better. I have space for side tabs with absolutely no issues. And I have a lot of room for bulking up my planner. So that is what I do now. I can fit a lot of stuff in my pockets with no issues. I can store a lot of stickers in the back with no issues. So that is what I personally do now. So those are the B6s. Also, let's talk about stitching. So this particular one and this particular one, I did like stitching. So as you can see, they kind of blend and they look very similar. But this particular one, I decided to do contrast stitching. So this is just another one of those things that you can do. This is not an upcharge, so you can choose whatever color stitching that you would prefer to go on your planner, and they do not charge you for the color change. It's basically a part of picking a color and you get whatever you want. So this particular one is the lavender in the buffalo leather, and I just did white contrast stitching, and I just love a white contrast. I really kind of wish I had done it with this one, but I didn't, and it is what it is. And then this one is a contrast as well. This one is a little bit different because I kind of went with a slightly darker color on a lighter planner, and some people like them vice versa. They like contrast stitching on dark planners and not on light planners, but I really liked how this turned out and it was fine with me. So stitching is definitely another one of those things that you can do. Now Vanderspek is definitely very accommodating. Like say this particular planner on the flyleaf, I asked to have a pen loop and they accommodated that. If you wanted to have a pocket, they would do that. If you wanted a zipper one, they would do that. But again, all of those things are upcharges, and it's just something to think about. I chose to put the pen loop on here because I don't like them on the left side. After I did that the one time, I actually did it twice, never did it again because I just don't like how it interferes with the book. And so you have that versus this one, and you can really see the difference in how two of the pen loops end up interfering with the book. So I really prefer just having the single, and that is basically how I keep that now. Just trying to think of anything else as far as basic things. We covered corners, we covered clasps, back pockets, obviously the leather offerings. So this particular one is a buffalo leather, and this particular one required being on a wait list. This is the lavender, and the wait list she has on the website, you had to have 50 people in order to sign up for the hides. And then after the 50 people had signed up, then you could go ahead and put your order in. You get an email, the email says that you're ready, and then you go from there. That is fairly simple. Now, as far as ostrich goes, when you want an ostrich planner, if you want less quill like this one, you need to do one of two things. you need to either organize an entire hide share for yourself and hope and pray that whatever size that you're choosing is going to be enough for you to get the less quill that's left over in that hide share. Generally it is, unless you're looking for an A5. If you're looking for something bigger than a B6, it's iffy on whether or not you will be able to get both outside less quill and inside less quill. So just keep that in mind. Generally though, there's enough when you've made your own hide share for you to be able to get the outside. And that is what I did on this particular one. So I found the hide share, I found all of the people that wanted full quill, and I was able to get the less quill that was left over. Now, wanting less quill does not put you in a hide share. Meaning if somebody is coming on and saying, I want iris and I want less quill, when someone is already organized the hide share, asking for less quill doesn't help them get their hide. So you have to be wanting a full quill planner, at least one side of it, in order to get yourself on a hide share, unless you've started it yourself or they were super gracious to let you join in with them, despite the fact that you're not really helping them at all. Because that's the unfortunate reality of hide shares with Spek. The only thing that gets a full hide share going is 4 full quill sides of, or sorry, yeah, 4 full quill sides of a planner. So that means a B6 with full quill exterior and full quill interior, and this one isn't. That essentially is two parts. And then another person needs full quill outside and inside, and that's the 4 parts. And then somebody could get less quill. But a lot of times, a lot of us will do a full quill on, say, the outside, and then a less quill on the inside to save money. Or we will do like this one, and this one we'll do, this one is less quill, but we would do a full quill outside and then a less quill in, a different leather inside to save money. So, and you can do that with less quill too, but I'm just saying as far as, so like this one here is technically a full quill interior and exterior. So this one counted as 2 full sides for this hide share. So I only needed 1 other person, but essentially I had 2 other people that only got the outside in full quill, and actually 1 person got inside in full quill. And so that made up the 4 people I needed to get my share. It's a bit confusing, I understand, but just kind of putting that out there, if wanting less quill doesn't help a hide share go. It really needs to be a full quill to get the hide share going. So cost-wise, you can check her stuff on the website. This is obviously subject to change based on things happening, but right now, when you're looking at a full quill planner, you're looking at 4 times the average cost to have your planner made. And so it's expensive, and just keep that in mind. It's expensive, and keep in mind, you're not going to get that money back when you resell it. Just have that all in your head. Make sure that you know that what you want as far as ostrich is something you're either going to keep or you don't care if you lose money. A lot of us care when we lose money. So keep that in mind, just kind of have that there. The other ones kind of more like this, definitely you have a better chance to get your money back if you haven't done tons of customs. You have a better chance to get most of your money back in a regular leather planner. So that's about it. That's about all I have. I've blabbed long enough, super long video, But hopefully this guys helps you guys with coming up with different ideas for customs, knowing what you should and shouldn't do, giving you ideas of what you can do. Spek is definitely, they can do most everything. So of course there comes a cost with it, but Petra is really, really good about doing most anything that you need. Just keep in mind that they are bogged down. They are a small company, family-owned company, that they do everything themselves. They do not outsource their work. The TM Touch Me line is outsourced, the ones that are like pre-made and sold complete, but the customs are all done in-house. And so Petra is literally customer service. She is one girl and one woman, and she does everything. So she answers the emails, she takes pictures, she sews, she does absolutely everything there. And so it could take a week to get back to you when you email her about a custom. So just kind of keep that in mind. You have to be super, super patient with this company. That's just par for the course. But again, you end up with this absolutely beautiful, gorgeous custom that is unique, and every single one of them is a little bit different because leather has so much variation. So when you get your custom, you know that what you have is definitely unique to you, and I absolutely love that about the company. So if you guys have any questions, feel free to comment down below, like and subscribe, and tell me, what do you like in a custom? What do you enjoy? What do you prefer? What don't you prefer? I'd love to hear your comments, and I will see you guys in the next video. Bye.